I want to talk a bit more about the response from the Labour left to what's happened to Jeremy, because I think it's just we're very diplomatic on this show, but I think we have to talk about this. This is John McDonnell's response. I know he wouldn't come on this show to talk about it, but we've got a clip of him.
As we go forward, I'm hoping what we'll be able to do with Jeremy's support is unite the party again. I'll be campaigning to get this decision reversed. That's what I'm going to be doing, and I'm hoping we'll be able to succeed at that. I'm hoping common sense will prevail and people won't be put into that position. And so I'm a great believer in the powers of conversion. I think we can win this campaign because I've spoken to people across the party, and people think it's unfair. Also, Jeremy lost the election with me as well. And of course, you don't kick a person when he's down. That's not the style we have within our own party. But in addition to that, it's interesting, quite a few sort of centrist or centre-right MPs, as you describe them, they're thinking, well, if they can do it to Jeremy on the basis that he's not an electoral asset, who else are they going to come for? As we go forward, I'm hoping what we'll be able to do with Jeremy's support is unite the party again. And let's stop this division, because it's unnecessary. It divides us before an election, and it just plays into the Tories' campaign handbook. The Tories are going to run this next general election campaign as a presidential campaign, Sunak versus Starmer, and they'll target every mistake that Starmer has made. And I think this will be one of them.
Is, in your view, Keir Starmer a hypocrite?
I think he needs to explain why he made those statements about Jeremy in particular, his friend, the respect he had for him, the way in which he was empathetic about the media attacks on Jeremy and what a good leader he was. He needs to explain what's changed his view, certainly, because I can't understand it. And it's the same on the policies that he announced in supporting, and he doesn't seem to be supporting now. I think he does have questions to answer, and that's exactly what we do within the party. We have a democratic process for asking the leader of those questions and holding him to account. I think he'll be held to account for this decision in these coming months. People will be asking the question, what's the rationale behind this? Why are you doing it? We think it's unfair. We think it's undemocratic, because we've always had the tradition in our party that local party members in the constituency will select their candidates. So all of those questions, I think, he will have to answer. Two things. One, he did apologise several times. That's on the record. Secondly, that is the reason that Keir put the motion to the National Executive Committee this morning. If you look at the motion, it doesn't mention anti-Semitism. What it says is that they feel that removing Jeremy as a candidate will help the party maximise its vote in the next general election. Well, I actually think that's a huge mistake.
Why do you say Keir Starmer has taken this action?
I think he's wrongly advised. It might be that some around him have been looking at the focus groups and think that the first step in the general election campaign is for Keir Starmer to distance himself from Jeremy because of some expressions of opposition to Jeremy in the opinion polls. But I don't think that's sufficiently nuanced. And I think after 3 years, I think people do realise that Keir Starmer is not Jeremy Corbyn. Yeah. So what's the point of going over the top on this like that? He's distanced himself enough, I think.
We're joined by Audrey White. Now, what do you think, Audrey, about John McDonnell's response?
Well, he's conceded over everything. There wasn't 1 ounce of defence, not one tiny little bit of defence for Jeremy Corbyn in everything that he said. They totally threw him under the bus, absolutely threw. And that's what you've got to learn to expect now from the Socialist campaign group of MPs. And the only problem is, of course, they're the people that, because they will be in safe seats, the likes of people will still go out and vote for John. And probably if he was my constituency, I'd go out and vote for him, because there's still the better elements within the Labour Party, which is very, very frightening. It's absolute cowardice on their part. I spoke to John lots of times over the period when Jeremy and him were in the leadership of the Labour Party. He knew all the time. He was told all the time, in detail, what was going on in our constituencies. and made promises and made promises and made promises, and they've backtracked. I mean, the only trouble is just focusing on this now. You know, we will get in slit your wrist mode if we're not careful, because if we just centre on what's happening with these people, instead of focusing on the policies, you know, that really are needed, the policies that were won by Jeremy and John, along that the whole infection of the big ideas of socialism and the radical change that's needed, we will go down here. We've got to have a perspective. We've got to say now, I mean, it's like a rant. I do feel like I'm going to have a rant, because you have to pull yourself away from those depths of despair all the time, because you can get very bogged down with it. What you have to say is, where are we now? Where are we now? We've won the argument that socialism is popular, that the ideas are needed, that it's the way forward. Even the big bogeyman that trade union activity is not popular. You know, the strikes that we've had, people have been won over to. Well, actually, you know, I do support these workers going on strike. It is right that we fight for a decent standard of living, over education, over all these things. The masses of people, you know, Tories included, are in favour of, you know, education for our youth that doesn't get them into debt. All these arguments, we don't need to go over it in this show, but all those arguments have been won. The only thing we don't have is a political voice, because there's the movements there still exists, probably stronger now than ever with the trade union activity that's gone on over the last period. But the big thing is, where is the political voice? Are we looking to the Labour Party? The soft soaping of momentum, and you know, it's not even naivety, it's a dishonesty. It's a dishonesty to say, and John, it's a dishonesty to say, oh, you know, we can persuade these people. There's no naivety with John. There's no there is with some people. And I think it's important we should admit that. Within the Labour Party, there will be ordinary people who haven't had our experiences, who are naive and still think there's a way forward through the Labour Party. So I'm not opposed to people staying in there, so long as they're not gagged. They don't have to push the tables over. What they need to do is stand up and defend every single move, attack every single move away from democracy. They'll soon be expelled. Don't worry about that. But the fight, there's still some people in their fight. And I know genuine people who, you know, they say to me, oh, but Audrey this, oh, you know, but, and they need to be able to see it for themselves. Some people have to have their own experience, and it'll happen. So I'm not saying to everybody, oh, leave. I would, you know, but what I'm saying is the movement is there, and the big important thing is that we find our voices, and it doesn't have to be Jeremy's. It doesn't have to even be the socialist group of MPs. They will be part of the movement, and that movement has to be any one of us. Any one of us who've campaigned all our lives, don't have to be as old as me. Anybody, these young firemen are coming through, these young railway workers, these teachers, they're all there. We've got to find people and unite around the policies. And just want to finish on this. There's lots of little groups saying, oh, one's called Salt of the Earth, I think. Another one's called Labour, Social Independent Councillors or something in Liverpool. You don't hear a word about the policies. Where are the policies? If we put the ideas out there and rally around the ideas, the policies, push them, talk about them on the picket line, talk about them when you're in the pub, discuss, let's have a, which we are having actually, real politicisation of the working class. And we've got to find the individuals, and they're there amongst us. We don't have to look very far, and put them up as independents. And we'll have a mixture of independent. There might be some Tusk candidates who've built a base. There might be even ones within the Labour Party who are prepared to fight. There will be ones in all sorts of groups. Let's get together and just organise and work on the ideas.